What's up, you guys? This one's all about GME because it's kind of quiet out there. So should be a relatively quick video, just keeping the cadence up, taking a look at what's happening on a daily basis here. So what did we see today? Well, ended at 25.50, up 1.11% on the day. And we are in this consolidation section in here. You could tell it is about as narrow as you can get. We're range bound between 25.70 and to the downside on the closes opens 24.75. So like a buck. We are just below the point of control. And all this means to me is that a lot of people are still willing to transact here. There's a lot of both buying and selling. When we look at the overall average volume though, it's pretty quiet. It's below the 1 month average vol. Today has been the quietest it's been since it looks like pre-squeeze. This might be close. What was the volume here? 9.5 to 7.7. Yeah. So this is the quietest been essentially since we saw this pop way back here in the beginning, or in the middle of May, I should say. So quiet day out there. Moving averages are all starting to look flat. And yeah, I mean, for me, the way I'm looking at it right now, I have no options out on the position, and that's just because it's not really moving a whole lot. But I do have shares on the position. I actually just added some more shares. The primary reason for that is just complementing a little bit of the broader portfolio, and specifically with this position. I do have some short options out against it, 90 days out, for a couple different reasons, but it's mostly to provide a bit of a short-term tailwind in case we do get a pullback. So this is not so much is some sort of theta decay play. It's definitely much more of a downside hedge if needed. And it guarantees a decent profit with where we're at right now. But those will be managed more likely than not on either a pullback or they'll be moved out as we get closer in time. So typically when I'm selling options, especially like short calls against long deltas, whether it's long calls or long shares, I like to be a little bit closer in time, but I'm actually planning on playing both of these expiration cycles when I start to see just a little bit more movement. So that's why I'm moving these further out. It fits the broader picture just a little bit better. Now, overall volume today was very light. We had 118,000 calls trade. Looks like my strangle expired out of the money. That's great news. And we had the put side at 26,800. So very, very quiet across the board. Now, when I look at the existing open interest, this is still narrower than it's been historically. Calls 691,000 against 384,000 puts. So not a ton that I'm seeing there. Volatility is super low. We haven't seen this front expiration below 100 for a hot minute. And it's not above 100 until we get to the 16 AUG expiration. So again, I already talked about this the last couple of days, that it just seems like we're coming into a bit of a quiet period, at least based on what I can see from the options markets. And this continues to seemingly confirm that. The other thing is, take a look at the number of calls being sold here. 34% of the volume today was sold calls. I was part of that. But for people like me, we're just looking at a way to take in a little bit of premium. The downside is it's not even really that sweet to the upside. When I say that's sweet in this context, it's just kind of a cheeky way of saying expensive call options. Like, these, you guys have seen me look at these enough by now. Look how crazy these are. This front expiration is all over the map. And I find that very interesting. We haven't seen this low of a ratio of call side to put side in a really long time. And then out here in the 16 AUG, you can see the 120s are really being bid up pretty heavy, but pretty much everything from like the 95s to the 115s, they're really, really suppressed. So another opportunity down in here. There you go. Just in case you wanted to see it. A lot of people, they get upset when they can't see the whole thing I'm looking at, which I get. So I'll get my fat head out of your way. But yeah, The vol curve here is interesting, but mostly what I'm seeing across the board in this is stuff just quieting down. That's overall what it looks like. When I take a look at trades, in this case, I'm filtering by stuff that at least has 50 contracts. I don't care if it's call or puts, but you can see the overall sizes trading are small. And the relative value of a lot of these is also very small, right? So we have 485, but these are 47 cents. We had 372 of these 25.5 calls that were bought, but there is 61 cents. So like these aren't a lot of like really high conviction style trades. There's a lot of premium selling going on that I can see. And then when we take a quick look here at our options flow from Unusual Wheels, it just kind of aggregates this a little more cleanly for you guys. Looking at the call side on purchased calls, everything is below $100,000. This is, again, one of the most quiet days that I've seen since. If I look on the sales side, again, very, very quiet all across the board. Now, if we add quickly the put side in, drop these calls out, super quiet, all below $100,000, and then on the purchase side, also all below $100,000. So what I'm highlighting is we are coming into a bit of a quiet period, it would seem. And with something like GameStop, you never know if it's actually quiet or if it's temporary quiet, about to get real loud. We do not know. And I do think now's an interesting time to start looking at the positions that you have, make sure that you have the exposure you want, because a lot of times you can see something in here and you're like, man, it looks kind of boring. And sometimes that's a good time to reconfigure your exposure, because if you start trying to get long when things are up here, it's much more difficult and your risk is much higher. Whereas if you're adjusting when we're down, just hovering in these really consolidated levels, it's a little bit of a different story. I set a bunch of different stops for me to phase out of my positions. That's essentially what all these different alerts are, to get me out when I don't want to hold, when things aren't moving my direction. So take a look at what you got. And as always, if you have any questions or anything you want me to take a look at, let me know. I am here for it. Be an outlier. I'll see you guys later.